I woke up that morning feeling something was wrong before I even opened my eyes. My scalp felt cold, exposed in a way that made my skin crawl. When I finally forced myself to look in the bathroom mirror, I couldn't breathe. My silver hair, the hair I'd been growing for 3 years after my husband Robert passed, was gone. Completely gone. Just patches of stubble remained, uneven and cruel, like someone had taken a razor to me while I slept. My trembling fingers touched my bare scalp. This wasn't a dream. This was real. Someone had violated me in the most intimate way possible. In my own home. In my own bed. I felt sick to my stomach, violated in ways I couldn't even begin to process. Jessica, I whispered to my reflection, and I knew. I knew exactly who had done this to me. The night before replayed in my mind like a horror movie. My son David had brought his fiancée Jessica to dinner, and they'd cornered me about paying for their wedding. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. Not contributing, not helping, paying for the entire thing. $50,000 for a wedding that I knew was more about showing off than celebrating love. Mom, you know how important this is to us, David had said, his voice taking on that whining tone he'd perfected as a child. You have the money. It's not like you're spending it on anything else. I'd looked at Jessica sitting there with her fake smile and calculating eyes, and something inside me had snapped. This woman had been systematically isolating my son from me for 2 years. She'd convinced him to skip our traditional Christmas dinner, to move 3 hours away, to call less and less. And now she wanted me to fund her fantasy wedding? I'm sorry, but I won't be paying for your wedding, I'd said calmly, setting down my wine glass. I think it's important for couples to build their life together on their own foundation. Jessica's mask had slipped for just a moment. The sweetness vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. That's really disappointing, Margaret. I thought you cared about David's happiness. I do care about David's happiness. That's exactly why I'm saying no. They'd left angry, Jessica's fake politeness completely gone. David hadn't even hugged me goodbye. As I'd locked the door behind them, I'd felt sad, but also strangely relieved. I'd finally stopped enabling their manipulation. But I never imagined she would do this. I stumbled back to my bedroom, my legs shaking. The house felt different now, violated. She'd been in here while I slept, standing over me with scissors or clippers, methodically destroying something that meant so much to me. How had I not woken up? Then I remembered the tea. Jessica had insisted on making me chamomile tea before they left, said it was a peace offering. I'd been suspicious, but drank it anyway, trying to keep the peace. She'd drugged me. My own son's fiancée had drugged me so she could assault me in my sleep. I sank onto my bed, running my hands over my ruined scalp. The woman I'd welcomed into my family, the woman I'd tried so hard to love for David's sake, had done this to me. And I knew why. This wasn't random cruelty. This was calculated punishment for not giving her what she wanted. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you're going to show up at the wedding, you should at least look sick. Like you should. The cruelty of it knocked the breath out of me. She wanted me to look sick, to look like I was dying, so people would pity her for having to deal with a burdensome mother-in-law. She'd turned my natural aging into a weapon against me. I stared at that message for a long time, feeling something inside me shift. The sadness was still there. The violation. The heartbreak of losing my son to this woman. But underneath it all, something else was growing, something cold and determined. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I called my lawyer's office before I even got dressed. Sarah Chen had been handling my affairs since Robert died, and she was smart, discreet, and utterly ruthless when she needed to be. Her assistant said she could see me that afternoon. As I hung up, I caught sight of myself in the dresser mirror again. The woman staring back at me looked like a victim, broken and defeated. But I wasn't defeated. I was angry. And anger, I was learning, could be a powerful motivator. Jessica had made a fatal mistake. She'd assumed I would just accept this humiliation, that I would quietly endure her cruelty like I had been doing for 2 years. She thought she'd broken me. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I spent the morning documenting everything. I took photos of my scalp, screenshots of the text message, and wrote down every detail I could remember about the previous evening. The tea, the timing, the way Jessica had lingered in the kitchen while David waited in the car. How she'd insisted on using the bathroom upstairs before they left, claiming the downstairs one was too small. She'd been casing my house, planning this attack. By the time I arrived at Sarah's office, I felt more composed. She took one look at me and her professional demeanor cracked. My God. Margaret, what happened to you? I told her everything. Sarah listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. This is assault, Margaret. Criminal assault. We need to file a police report immediately. I want to do more than that, I said quietly. I want to know who she really is. This level of calculated cruelty, this isn't her first time hurting someone. Sarah nodded slowly. I know a private investigator, very discreet, very thorough. If Jessica has a history, he'll find it. Do it, I said without hesitation. I want to know everything about her. Where she came from, who she was before David, what she's capable of. As I left Sarah's office, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 2 years. Hope, not for reconciliation with David. That ship had sailed, but for justice, for the truth. The next morning, I watched from my kitchen window as a courier delivered an envelope to the house where David and Jessica were staying. I imagined her opening it, reading the letterhead from Chen and Associates, and I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. Let the games begin. But what Jessica found inside that envelope would change everything. I'd set something in motion that would reveal truths she desperately wanted to keep buried. As I sipped my morning coffee, watching her panicked face through the window, I knew this was only the beginning. The woman who thought she could destroy me was about to learn that some battles shouldn't be started unless you're prepared to finish them. And I was more than ready to finish this one. My phone rang. It was Sarah. Margaret, I need to see you immediately. What I found about Jessica, you're not going to believe this. I felt my heart skip. Whatever she'd discovered in just 24 hours was enough to shake my unflappable lawyer. I grabbed my keys with trembling hands. This was going to change everything. I arrived at Sarah's office within 30 minutes, my heart pounding with anticipation and dread. She was waiting for me with a thick manila folder on her desk and an expression I'd never seen before, part anger, part disbelief. Sit down, Margaret, she said, her voice unusually tense. What I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear. I settled into the leather chair across from her desk, my hands gripping the armrests. Just tell me. Sarah opened the folder and pulled out a photograph. It showed Jessica, but she looked different, younger, with darker hair and a harder expression. This is Jessica Marie Collins, taken 5 years ago in Portland, Oregon. But that's not the name she's using now, is it? No, I whispered. She told David her name was Jessica Blake, because Jessica Blake is dead. Sarah's words hit me like a physical blow. She died in a car accident 3 years ago. Your son's fiancée stole her identity. The room seemed to spin around me. That's impossible. David met her at work. They've been together for 2 years. Margaret, there's more. Sarah pulled out another document. Jessica Collins has a history. She's done this before. 3 times that we can confirm. My mouth went dry. Done what? Found vulnerable men, usually recently divorced or widowed, gained their trust, isolated them from their families, and then... Sarah hesitated. Then bad things happened to their mothers. I felt like I was going to be sick. What kind of bad things? Sarah spread out more photographs and documents. Portland, 2019. Helen Morrison, 68, mother of Jessica's then-boyfriend Mark. Helen was found dead at the bottom of her basement stairs. Ruled accidental, but the family suspected foul play. Jessica inherited everything when Mark died in a motorcycle accident 6 months later. Dear God, I breathed. Sacramento, 2021. Dorothy Palmer, 72, mother of Jessica's boyfriend Ryan. Dorothy died of an apparent heart attack, but the paramedics noted bruising on her arms. Jessica had been staying in the house, caring for her during her final days. Ryan moved across the country with Jessica shortly after the funeral. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the photographs. And the third? Phoenix, 2022. Margaret, this is the most disturbing one. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. Patricia Hoffman, 69, mother of Jessica's boyfriend Stephen. Patricia was found dead in her bathtub, apparently drowned. The police investigation was brief. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play. But Patricia's sister told investigators that Patricia was terrified of Jessica, said she'd been threatening her. I stared at the photographs of 3 women, all around my age, all dead. Where are their sons now? Dead, all of them. Mark Morrison, motorcycle accident. Ryan Palmer, overdose. Stephen Hoffman fell from a hiking trail. Sarah's voice was grim. Margaret, I don't believe in coincidences. This woman is dangerous. The weight of what I was hearing pressed down on me like a physical force. So David is in danger, yes. Sarah leaned forward. But so are you. Based on her pattern, she eliminates the mother first, then the son. You refusing to pay for the wedding, standing up to her, it's accelerated her timeline. I thought about David, my stubborn, naive son who'd been so easily manipulated. Despite everything, despite choosing Jessica over me, I couldn't let him die. What do? We have to be very careful. If she suspects we know who she really is, she might panic and hurt David immediately. Sarah pulled out another file, but we have advantages she doesn't know about. I've been in touch with the families of her previous victims. They're all willing to testify about the pattern of behavior. Will that be enough? It's a start. But we need more. We need to catch her in the act, or get her to confess. Sarah looked at me intently. Are you willing to put yourself at risk to save your son? I thought about David as a little boy, running to me when he skinned his knee. The way he used to call me his best friend before Jessica came along. Yes, I said without hesitation. Whatever it takes. Good. Because I have a plan, but it's going to require you to do something that goes against every instinct you have. Sarah pulled out a legal document. We're going to make Jessica think she's won. Over the next hour, Sarah explained her strategy. We would make Jessica believe that her attack on me had worked, that I was broken and defeated. I would reach out to David, apologize for overreacting about the wedding, and offer to not only pay for it, but also to give Jessica access to my accounts so she could plan it properly. She'll think she's successfully isolated you from any support system, Sarah explained. When predators believe they've won, they get careless. They reveal their true nature. And then? Then we document everything. Every threat, every manipulation, every moment when her mask slips. We build a case that will not only put her away, but also save David's life. I felt sick at the thought of pretending to submit to Jessica, of letting her think she'd destroyed me. But if it meant saving David, I would do it. Sarah handed me a small device that looked like a pen. This is a recording device. It will pick up conversations from 20 feet away. Wear it whenever you're around her. As I prepared to leave, Sarah grabbed my arm. Margaret, promise me you'll be careful. This woman has killed 3 people that we know of. She won't hesitate to kill again. I looked at my reflection in the window of Sarah's office. The woman staring back at me looked like a victim, broken and defeated, but appearances could be deceiving. I was about to become something Jessica had never encountered before, a mother who would do anything to protect her child, even if he no longer deserved it. She has no idea what she's unleashed, I said quietly. That evening, I called David. He answered on the first ring, his voice cold and distant. Mom, David, I need to apologize. The words tasted bitter, but I forced them out. I was wrong about the wedding. I was wrong about Jessica. I'd like to make it right. There was a long pause. What do you mean? I mean, I want to pay for the wedding. All of it. And I want to give Jessica my credit card so she can plan it exactly how she wants it. I took a deep breath. I realize now that I've been selfish. I just want you to be happy. Another pause. Then David's voice became warmer. Mom, that's wonderful. Jessica will be so happy. She's been really hurt by what you said. I know, I want to make it up to her. Can you bring her by tomorrow? I'd like to apologize in person. Of course, we'll be there around 2. As I hung up, I felt like I was signing my own death warrant. But if it meant saving David, it was worth it. The next day, I prepared for what might be the performance of my life. I had to convince a sociopathic killer that I was a broken old woman who posed no threat to her plans. Jessica was about to learn that some prey fight back. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock, and I took a deep breath before answering. I'd spent the morning preparing for this performance, the most important one of my life. I'd deliberately chosen clothes that made me look frail, applied makeup to emphasize the dark circles under my eyes, and practiced the defeated posture of a broken woman. David stood on my doorstep with Jessica beside him, her arm linked possessively through his. She was wearing a flowing white dress that made her look angelic, but I could see the satisfaction gleaming in her eyes as she took in my appearance. Mom, David said, his voice uncertain. You look tired, I finished for him, forcing my voice to sound weak. I haven't been sleeping well since our conversation. Jessica stepped forward, her expression perfectly crafted to show concern. Oh, Margaret, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to cause you distress. The audacity of her sympathy made my stomach turn, but I managed a trembling smile. Please, come in. I've made tea. As they settled in the living room, I noticed Jessica's eyes scanning the space, cataloging details. She was already planning, I realized with a chill, planning how to make my death look accidental. David tells me you've had a change of heart about the wedding, Jessica said, settling onto the sofa with practiced grace. I have. I sat across from them, keeping my voice soft and apologetic. I realized now that I was being selfish. I was so focused on my own feelings that I forgot what was important. Your happiness. David's expression softened. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I turned to Jessica, forcing myself to look directly at her. I owe you an apology, Jessica. I was wrong to judge you, wrong to interfere in your relationship with David. I hope you can forgive me. Jessica's smile was radiant, but her eyes remained cold. Of course I can forgive you. Margaret, we're going to be family, after all. Family. The word felt like poison in the air between us. I want to do more than just apologize, I continued, reaching for the envelope I'd prepared. I want to make this right. I pulled out my credit card and checkbook. I want to pay for the entire wedding. Whatever you want, however much it costs. Jessica's eyes lit up with genuine excitement now. Margaret, that's so generous. Are you sure? I'm sure. And I want you to handle all the planning. You have such wonderful taste. I handed her the credit card. There's no limit on this card. I want your day to be perfect. David looked stunned. Mom, this is incredible. Thank you. Jessica took the card, her fingers lingering on mine for just a moment. I promise I'll take good care of everything, Margaret. You won't have to worry about a thing. The way she said it sent ice through my veins. I was certain she meant I wouldn't have to worry about anything because I'd be dead. There's something else, I said, pulling out a manila folder. I've been thinking about the future, about what happens after the wedding. I want to make sure you and David are taken care of. Jessica leaned forward, her interest clearly piqued. What do you mean? I mean I want to update my will. I want to make sure that when I'm gone, everything goes to David and his wife. I opened the folder to show them the documents Sarah had prepared. I've already spoken to my lawyer about it. This was the moment of truth. Would Jessica's mask slip? Margaret, that's very thoughtful, but we don't need to think about that now, David said uncomfortably. You're going to be around for a long time. But Jessica was studying the documents with intense focus. This is very generous, Margaret. Very forward-thinking. I'm 67 years old, Jessica. I have to be realistic about these things. I let my voice crack slightly. Since Robert died, I've been thinking more and more about mortality, especially after what happened with my hair. Jessica's eyes flicked to my scalp, and for just a moment I saw something that made my blood run cold. Satisfaction. Pride. She was proud of what she'd done to me. Yes, that was terrible, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Such a shame when health issues cause those kinds of problems. Health issues. She was already creating the narrative, making it seem like my hair loss was due to illness rather than her assault. The doctor says it might be stress-related, I continued, playing along. All this family tension hasn't been good for me. Well, hopefully now that we've worked things out, you'll start feeling better, Jessica said. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at my backyard. This is such a beautiful property, so private. So peaceful. The way she said private made me understand exactly what she was thinking. No neighbors to hear screams, no witnesses to see what really happened. I love it here, I said. Robert and I bought this house 30 years ago. I can't imagine living anywhere else. No, I'm sure you can't, Jessica murmured, still looking out the window. Some people just aren't meant to leave their homes. David was oblivious to the undercurrent of menace in her words. Mom, I can't believe how understanding you're being about everything. Jessica was so worried you'd never accept her. Were you worried, Jessica? I asked, genuinely curious about her response. She turned from the window, her expression perfectly innocent. Of course I was. A mother's approval means everything to me. I lost my own mother when I was very young, so having a mother figure in my life again. She trailed off, her eyes filling with what looked like genuine tears. But I knew better now. I knew that Jessica Blake's mother was probably still alive somewhere, mourning a daughter who died in a car accident 3 years ago. I'm sorry for your loss, I said quietly. Thank you. That's why it's so important to me that we have a good relationship. I don't want to lose another mother. The word sent a chill down my spine. Another mother. Was she thinking about Helen Morrison, Dorothy Palmer, and Patricia Hoffman? You won't lose me, I said, and meant it in a way she couldn't possibly understand. Jessica came back to the sofa and sat down next to me, taking my hand in hers. Her skin was surprisingly cold. I'm so glad we talked today, Margaret. I feel like we're really connecting. So do I said, fighting the urge to pull away from her touch. You know, I was thinking, Jessica continued, her voice taking on a casual tone. Since we're planning this wedding, maybe I should spend more time here, help you with things around the house. You seem a bit fragile lately. There it was. She wanted to move in, to have constant access to me, to study my routines, my habits, my vulnerabilities. That's very kind of you, I said, but I wouldn't want to impose. It's no imposition at all. Actually, I insist. David's been so worried about you living alone. She squeezed my hand tighter. Haven't you, David? David nodded eagerly. I have been worried, Mom. It would make me feel better knowing Jessica was checking on you. Then it's settled, Jessica said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'll start coming by every day. We'll plan the wedding together, and I'll make sure you're taking care of yourself. As they prepared to leave, Jessica hugged me goodbye. As she pressed close, I heard her whisper in my ear, so quietly that David couldn't hear. "You made the right choice, Margaret. Things will be so much easier now." After they left, I sat in my living room for a long time, my heart pounding. The recording device had captured everything, but I wasn't sure how much would be useful. Jessica had been careful, speaking in implications and subtext, but I'd learned something crucial. She was planning to kill me soon. The wedding was just a cover story, a way to explain her presence in my life when I died, and she wanted to be here, in my house, studying me. I called Sarah immediately. "She's moving fast," I told her. "She wants to start coming here every day." "That's good," Sarah said. "The more time she spends with you, the more likely she is to slip up. But Margaret, you need to be extremely careful. If she suspects you know anything, I understand." I looked around my house, this place that had been my sanctuary for 30 years. Soon it would become a battlefield. "Sarah, what if we can't get enough evidence? What if she's too careful?" "Then we'll have to force her hand," Sarah said grimly. "But let's hope it doesn't come to that." As I hung up, I realized that Jessica had made one crucial mistake. She thought she was the hunter, and I was the prey. But she had no idea that I was hunting her too. And I had something she didn't expect: a mother's determination to protect her child, even if it meant sacrificing herself. The game was about to begin in earnest. Jessica started coming by the very next day. She arrived at 10 in the morning with a cheerful smile and a bag of groceries, playing the part of the caring daughter-in-law to perfection. "I brought some healthy foods," she announced, unpacking organic vegetables and herbal teas. "We need to get your strength back up." I watched her move through my kitchen with practiced ease, noting how she memorized the layout, where I kept my medications, the location of every door and window. She was mapping my house like a battlefield. "You're so thoughtful," I said, accepting the cup of tea she offered. But I didn't drink it. Not anymore. I'd learned that lesson. "I want to take care of you, Margaret. You've been under so much stress." She sat across from me at the kitchen table, her expression concerned. "Have you been having any other health issues? Besides the hair loss?" I knew what she was doing. She was looking for weaknesses, for ways to make my eventual death look natural. Just the usual aches and pains of getting older, some trouble sleeping. "Are you taking anything for that?" "Just some over-the-counter sleep aids occasionally." I gestured toward the medicine cabinet. "Nothing prescription." Jessica's eyes followed my gesture, cataloging that information. "You know, I used to work in healthcare before I met David. I might be able to help you with some natural remedies." Healthcare. Another lie. According to Sarah's investigation, Jessica had never worked in any medical field. "That would be wonderful," I said. "I don't like taking too many medications." "Of course not. Natural is always better." Jessica smiled. "Why don't you show me around the house? I want to make sure it's safe for you. Sometimes older homes can have hazards." As we walked through my house, I felt like I was giving a tour to my own executioner. Jessica examined everything with the eye of someone planning an accident. She lingered at the top of the stairs, testing the railing. She spent extra time in the bathroom, noting the placement of the tub, the height of the shower step. "This bathroom could be dangerous," she said, running her hand along the edge of the bathtub. "It would be so easy to slip here. We should get you some safety rails." My skin crawled as I remembered Patricia Hoffman, found drowned in her bathtub. "That's very considerate of you. I just want you to be safe." Jessica's voice was sweet, but her eyes were calculating. "Maybe I should start staying overnight sometimes, just to make sure you're okay." "Oh, I wouldn't want to impose. It's no imposition. I want to help." She placed her hand on my arm. "Actually, I was thinking I could move in temporarily, just until after the wedding. David's been working such long hours, and I get lonely in that apartment." My heart raced. This was accelerating faster than I'd expected. If Jessica moved in, she'd have unlimited access to me. She could kill me anytime she wanted. I suppose that would be nice," I managed. "I do get lonely sometimes." "Perfect. I'll bring some things over tomorrow." Jessica's smile was radiant. "This is going to be so much fun. Like having a real mother-daughter relationship." The irony of her words was sickening. She was planning to kill me while playing the loving daughter. That evening, I called Sarah in a panic. "She wants to move in. Tomorrow." "That's actually good news," Sarah said. "The closer she gets, the more likely she is to make a mistake." "But what if she doesn't make a mistake? What if she just kills me in my sleep?" "She won't. Not yet. She needs to establish a pattern first. Make it look like your health is declining. She'll probably start with small things, making you dizzy, causing minor accidents, building up to the main event. How is that good news? Because every time she tries to hurt you, we'll have evidence. You're wearing the recording device, right?" I touched the pen-shaped recorder clipped to my shirt. "Yes." But what if it's not enough? Then we move to plan B, but let's see what happens first. The next morning, Jessica arrived with 2 suitcases and a bright smile. I hope you don't mind, but I brought quite a bit. I want to make sure I have everything I need to take proper care of you. As she unpacked in the guest room, I noticed several items that made my blood run cold. A small vial of what looked like medication, a bottle of cleaning solution that could easily be poison, and strangest of all, a rubber glove and some kind of medical tubing. What's all this? I asked, pointing to the medical supplies. Oh, just some things I use for my health routine. I have some minor medical issues that require monitoring. Jessica's explanation was smooth, practiced. Nothing serious, but I like to be prepared. I nodded, but I knew better. Those weren't medical supplies. They were murder weapons. Over the next few days, Jessica settled into a routine. She would make my meals, insisting I eat everything she prepared. She would clean the house, always paying special attention to areas where accidents might happen. And she would talk constantly about my health. You seem tired today, Margaret. Are you feeling all right? You look a little pale. Maybe you should rest more. Are you sure you should be walking around so much? I worry about you falling. She was building a narrative, creating witnesses, the mailman, the neighbors, anyone who might see us together. She was establishing herself as the devoted caretaker of a declining old woman. But I was building evidence too. The recording device captured every conversation, every subtle threat, every moment when her mask slipped. And it was slipping more often now that she felt safe. On the 3rd day, she made her first real move. I made you some special tea, she said, bringing me a cup with a strange, bitter smell. It's an herbal blend that will help you sleep better. I accepted the cup, but didn't drink it. When Jessica went to the bathroom, I quickly poured the tea into a small vial I'd hidden in my pocket. Sarah would have it analyzed. How do you feel? Jessica asked when she returned. A little drowsy, I lied. That tea is very effective. Good. You need your rest. Jessica's smile was satisfied. I'll make you some more tomorrow night. That night, I lay in bed pretending to sleep deeply while listening for any sound of Jessica moving around the house. Around midnight, I heard her footsteps in the hallway. My door creaked open, and I forced myself to breathe slowly and deeply. Jessica stood in my doorway for a long time, watching me. I could feel her eyes on me, calculating, planning. Finally, she stepped into the room. My heart pounded as she approached my bed. Through barely opened eyes, I watched her lean over me, studying my face. She reached out and touched my wrist, checking my pulse. Soon, she whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. Very soon. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with the terrifying knowledge that she was already planning the timing of my death. The next morning, Jessica was especially attentive. She made me breakfast, fluffed my pillows, and kept asking about my health. Did you sleep well? You seemed very deeply asleep when I checked on you. Yes, that tea really helped. I kept my voice weak. Grateful. I haven't slept that well in months. Wonderful. I'll make sure to give you some every night. Jessica's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. We want to make sure you're getting proper rest. Over the next several days, the tea grew stronger. Jessica was clearly experimenting, testing how much she could give me without arousing suspicion. Each night, I pretended to drink it and saved samples for Sarah. Meanwhile, Jessica grew bolder. She started talking about my deteriorating condition in front of David when he visited. Your mother seems to be declining faster than I expected, she told him with perfectly crafted concern. I'm worried about leaving her alone, even for a few hours. Should we get her a doctor? David asked, studying my supposedly weakened state. I think she's just tired, Jessica replied. Sometimes older people go downhill quickly. It's natural. Natural. She was already preparing him for my death, making it seem inevitable. But Jessica had made a crucial error. She'd grown too comfortable, too confident. And in her confidence, she'd started to reveal her true nature. On the 7th night, as she brought me the drugged tea, she lingered longer than usual. You know, Margaret, she said, sitting on the edge of my bed, I want you to know that I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. I'm glad I could help. You've been so generous with the wedding money. And updating your will. Jessica's voice took on a different tone. It shows real wisdom, preparing for the future. I want to make sure David is taken care of. Oh, he will be. We both will be. Jessica's smile was sharp now. You've made sure of that. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out into the darkness. You know, I've been thinking about your health situation. Sometimes these things progress faster than we expect. What do you mean? Jessica turned back to me, and for a moment her mask slipped completely. I mean that sometimes people just fade away, quietly, peacefully, in their sleep. The recording device captured every word, every inflection. But more importantly, it captured the moment when Jessica stopped pretending to be anything other than what she was, a killer. "I should let you rest," she said, her voice returning to its usual sweetness. "Sweet dreams, Margaret." As she left, I lay in the darkness knowing that tomorrow night would probably be my last. Jessica was ready to make her move. It was time for me to make mine. The next morning, I knew I was living on borrowed time. Jessica moved through my house with the confidence of someone who owned it, humming softly as she prepared what she probably assumed would be my final breakfast. "You look tired this morning," she said, setting down a plate of scrambled eggs that I wouldn't dare eat. "Are you feeling all right?" "Just a bit weak," I replied, playing my part. "I think I might be coming down with something." Jessica's eyes lit up with satisfaction. "Maybe you should stay in bed today. I'll take care of everything." "That's very kind of you." I forced myself to look grateful. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You don't have to worry about that," Jessica said, and the double meaning in her words made my skin crawl. "I'm not going anywhere." As soon as Jessica left to run errands, I called Sarah. "Tonight," I said without preamble. "She's going to do it tonight." "Are you sure?" "She's been building up to this all week. The drugs are getting stronger, she's been talking about my health deteriorating, and last night she basically told me I was going to die in my sleep." "Okay." Sarah's voice was calm, professional. "Then we trigger the plan. Are you ready?" I looked around my house, this place that had been my sanctuary for 30 years. Tonight it would become a crime scene one way or another. "I'm ready. Remember, you need to get her to confess on tape. We need her to admit what she's done to the other women, what she's planning to do to you. Can you do that?" "I have to. Margaret, if something goes wrong, it won't." I interrupted. "I won't let her win." That afternoon, I made my preparations. I hid backup recording devices around the house, positioned my phone to automatically send everything to Sarah's secure server, and made sure I had a clear path to my car keys if I needed to escape. When Jessica returned, she was carrying a small paper bag from the pharmacy. "I got you some stronger sleep aids," she announced. "The pharmacist said these would help with your restlessness." I recognized the medication. It was the same type that had been found in Dorothy Palmer's system. "That's very thoughtful. I want you to be comfortable." Jessica's smile was gentle, caring, especially tonight. The way she said especially tonight confirmed my suspicions. This was it. As evening approached, Jessica became increasingly attentive. She made me dinner, fluffed my pillows, and kept checking on me with exaggerated concern. "Are you sure you're feeling all right? You seem so fragile today." "I'm just tired," I said. "I think I'll go to bed early." "That's probably best. But first, let me make you some tea, the special kind that helps you sleep." I watched her in the kitchen, noting how she added not just the herbal mixture, but also several pills from the pharmacy bag. She was done being subtle. Tonight, she was going for the kill. "Here you go," she said, bringing me the cup. "This should help you sleep very peacefully." I accepted the cup, noting how she watched me intently. "Thank you for taking such good care of me, Jessica." "It's my pleasure. You've been so good to me." "Margaret, I want to make sure you're comfortable." This was my moment. I needed to get her talking, to get her to reveal her true intentions. "Jessica, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What's going to happen to me?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I can feel myself getting weaker. I know I'm not getting better." I looked directly at her. "Am I going to die?" For a moment, Jessica's mask slipped completely. I saw the predator underneath, calculating and cold. "We all die eventually, Margaret. But soon? Am I going to die soon?" Jessica sat down beside me, her voice taking on a soothing tone. "Does it matter? You're tired, aren't you? Wouldn't it be nice to just rest? Like the other women?" The words hung in the air between us. Jessica froze, her eyes sharpening. "What other women?" "The ones who came before me. Helen Morrison, Dorothy Palmer, Patricia Hoffman." I watched her face carefully. "Did they feel tired too before they died?" Jessica's expression shifted through several emotions. Surprise, anger, and finally a cold amusement. "You've been investigating me." "I had to. When someone attacks you in your sleep, you tend to want to know who they really are. And who am I?" "Margaret, you're Jessica Collins. The real Jessica Blake died 3 years ago. But you've been using her name, her life, her identity." I leaned forward. "You're a killer." Jessica laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Prove it." "I don't have to prove it. I know it. And now you know that I know it." I set down the teacup without drinking from it. "So what happens now?" Jessica stood up and walked to the window. looking out at the darkness. When she turned back, her face was completely different. Gone was the sweet, caring daughter-in-law. In her place stood a woman with dead eyes and a cruel smile. Now you're going to drink your tea, and then you're going to go to sleep. And unfortunately, you're not going to wake up. Just like Helen Morrison, Helen was stubborn, like you. She threatened to tell Mark about my past. I couldn't let that happen. Jessica's voice was matter-of-fact, as if she were discussing the weather. The stairs were convenient. A simple push, and suddenly Mark was free to make his own choices. And Dorothy Palmer? Dorothy was smarter than I gave her credit for. She found some old photos, started asking questions. A heart attack was cleaner than stairs, more believable for a woman her age. And Patricia Hoffman? Jessica's smile widened. Patricia was the most troublesome of all. She actually went to the police, can you imagine? They didn't believe her, of course, but she was becoming a problem. Jessica tilted her head. The bathtub solution was inspired, I thought. Accidental drowning. Very sad, very believable. And their sons? Collateral damage. They'd served their purpose. Once I had access to their mother's money, they became unnecessary. The casual way she discussed murder made my blood run cold. But I had what I needed, a full confession. Now I just had to survive long enough to use it. And David? What's going to happen to David? David is different. David is special. Jessica's voice took on an almost affectionate tone. David is going to be devastated by your death. He'll need comforting, support. And when he's recovered enough, we'll take a nice long honeymoon, somewhere with dangerous hiking trails, perhaps. You're going to kill him too. I'm going to free him from the burden of grief. Really, Margaret, I'm quite merciful. I felt rage building in my chest, but I forced myself to remain calm. What about his friends, his co-workers? People will ask questions. People always ask questions, but they always accept the answers too. Accidents happen, people die, life goes on. Jessica picked up the teacup and held it out to me. Now drink this. No. Drink it, Margaret. I said no. Jessica's expression hardened. I was trying to be kind. I was trying to make this easy for you, but if you're going to be difficult... She reached into her purse and pulled out a syringe. This is a much less pleasant way to die, but it will look like a heart attack, so it serves the same purpose. I stood up quickly, putting the coffee table between us. You're not going to get away with this. Of course I am. I always do. Jessica advanced around the table, syringe in hand. The police will find you dead in your bed. Your devoted daughter-in-law will be traumatized. Your son will inherit everything and I'll inherit him. It's very neat, very clean. Except for one thing. What's that? I smiled for the first time in days. You confessed. Everything you just said was recorded. Jessica's face went white. You're lying. Check my shirt pocket. Jessica's eyes flicked to the recording device, then back to my face. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked genuinely afraid. It doesn't matter, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I'll destroy it. Too late. Everything's already been uploaded to my lawyer's server. Even if you kill me now, the evidence will survive. Jessica's hand tightened on the syringe. Then I'll just have to make sure the police never believe it. They'll believe it when they test the tea you made me. They'll believe it when they match your fingerprints to the ones found at the other crime scenes. They'll believe it when they discover you're not really Jessica Blake. Shut up! Jessica lunged forward with the syringe, but I was ready for her. I grabbed a lamp from the side table and swung it at her arm. She screamed and dropped the syringe, but she was younger and stronger than me. She tackled me to the floor, her hands going for my throat. You stupid old woman! She hissed. You should have just drunk the tea. As her hands tightened around my neck, I thought of David, of the little boy who used to call me his best friend. I thought of the 3 women who had died before me, who hadn't had the chance to fight back. With the last of my strength, I reached for the broken lamp and brought it down on Jessica's head. She collapsed on top of me, unconscious. I pushed her off and crawled to my phone, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. 911. What's your emergency? I need the police. I've just been attacked by a murderer. As I waited for the police to arrive, I looked at Jessica's unconscious form and felt a deep satisfaction. She'd finally met someone who fought back. The nightmare was almost over. The police arrived within minutes, followed closely by Sarah and a team of paramedics. As they took Jessica away in handcuffs, still groggy from the head injury, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders that I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. The recording is clear, Sarah told me as we watched the police cars disappear down my street. Her confession about the other murders, the details about how she killed them, it's all there. She's not getting out of this. I touched my throat, still sore from where Jessica had tried to strangle me. What about David? He's on his way. I called him after the police arrested her. Sarah's expression was gentle. This is going to be hard for him, Margaret. When David arrived an hour later, his face was a mask of confusion and disbelief. Mom, What's going on? The police said Jessica was arrested for murder? That can't be right. I sat him down at my kitchen table, the same place where Jessica had served me poisoned tea just hours earlier. Son, I need you to listen to me. Really listen. Over the next hour, I told him everything. About Jessica's real identity, about the 3 women she'd killed, about her plan to murder both of us. I showed him the evidence, played him parts of the recording, watched as his world crumbled around him. She was going to kill me too, he whispered, his face pale. After she got your inheritance. It's what she did to the others. I reached across the table and took his hand. I'm so sorry, David. I know you loved her. I thought I did. But the woman I loved never existed, did she? David looked at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry. I chose her over you. I let her convince me that you were the problem. You were manipulated by a professional. She'd done this before, perfected her technique. I squeezed his hand. What matters is that we're both alive. But my hair, what she did to you, David's voice cracked. I should have protected you. You couldn't have known. She was very good at what she did. David was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now we heal. We rebuild. We remember what family really means. 3 months later, I stood in the courthouse as Jessica Collins was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The families of her previous victims were there, finally getting the justice they'd been denied for so long. David had moved back to town, renting a small apartment just a few blocks from my house. We had dinner together twice a week, slowly rebuilding the relationship that Jessica had tried to destroy. I keep thinking about what could have happened, he said one evening as we sat on my back porch. If you hadn't figured out who she was, but I did figure it out. And more importantly, I fought back. I looked at him, this son I'd almost lost. Sometimes the people who seem weakest are actually the strongest. David nodded, understanding. I'm proud of you, Mom. You saved both our lives. I saved us because that's what mothers do. We protect our children, even when they don't want our protection. 6 months after Jessica's sentencing, I received a letter from Helen Morrison's daughter in Portland. She thanked me for giving her family closure, for proving that her mother's death hadn't been an accident. Similar letters came from the Palmer and Hoffman families. I'd found peace in knowing that Jessica would never hurt anyone again. But more than that, I'd found myself. The woman who had woken up that morning with her head shaved, broken, and humiliated was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who had looked evil in the face and refused to back down. I kept the recording device as a reminder, not of the horror I'd endured, but of the strength I'd discovered. Sometimes the most important battles are the ones we fight when we think we have nothing left to lose. David married a wonderful woman 2 years later, a genuine, kind person who loved him for who he was, not what he could give her. At their wedding, I wore my hair in an elegant silver style that I'd grown to love. As I watched them exchange vows, I thought about Jessica's twisted version of family, built on lies and manipulation and death. Then I looked around at the people who had supported us through our darkest time. Real family, the kind that's built on love and trust and truth. Jessica had thought she was clever, that she could manipulate and control and destroy without consequences. But she'd made one fatal mistake. She'd underestimated a mother's love, and that mistake had cost her everything. As for me, I was finally free.